Kedves gyerekek, kedves felnőttek, bárki, aki kicsit angolul szeretne hallani egy mesét, az előző videóban a népmeseponton egy ír népmesét hallottatok magyar fordításban, de úgy gondoltam, hogy akinek van kedve, annak legyen meg a lehetősége arra is, hogy meghallgatja angolul. Úgyhogy mutatom nektek a könyvet, Folk Tales of the British Isles. Ebben a brit szigetekről különböző ugye velszi, skót, ír, északír és angol népmesék vannak, és ebből választottam azt a mesét, amit hallottatok a videóban. Let's start! Tom Fitzpatrick and the Leprechaun. Oliver Tom Fitzpatrick was the eldest son of a comfortable farmer who lived highland to Marystone Latin, not far from Liffey. Tom was just turned 9 of 20 when he met with the following adventure, and he was a clever, clean, tight, good-looking a boy as any in the whole country Kildare. One fine day in harvest, Tom was taking a run by himself through the land, and with thundering around sunny side of a hitch on, thinking in himself, where did it be a great harm if people, instead of just going and coming about doing nothing at all, were to shake out the hay and bind and stook the oats that was lying on the edge. Especially as the weather was rather breaking out late, with all of a sudden he heard a clacking sort of a noise just a little way from him in the hedge. "Dear me," said Tom, "but isn't it now really surprising to hear the stone chatter singing so late in the season?" So Tom stole on, going on the tips of his toes, and tried he could get a sight of what was making the noise, to see if he was right in his guess. The noise stopped, but as Tom looked sharp through the bushes, what did he see in the nook of a hedge but a brown pitcher that might hold about a gallon and a half of a liquor? And by he has seen a little wee teeny-weeny bit of an old man with a little mutty in a cocked hat stuck on the top of his head, and a dishy-doshy leather apron hanging down for him. And he pulled out a little wooden stool and stood up on it and dipped the little pigeon into a pitcher and took out the full of it and put it beside the stool, and he sat down under the pitcher and began to work at putting a earpiece on a bit of a little brush boot just fitting for himself. "Well, by the power," said Tom to himself, "I often heard tell of leprechauns, and to tell God's the truth, I never rightly believed in them, but there is one of them in right of me. Ernest, if I go knowingly to work, I'm a madman. They say a body must never take their eyes off of them. They are already escaped." Tom now stole on a little further, with his eyes fixed, and the little man, just as a cat does with a mouse, or, as we read in books, the rattlesnake does with the birds he wants to enchant. So, when he got up quite close to him, "God bless your work, honest man," says Tom. The little man raised up his head and, "Thank you kindly," says he. "I wonder you'd be working on the holiday," says Tom. "That's my own business and none of yours," was the reply, short enough. "Well, maybe then you'd be civil enough to tell us what you've got in the pitcher there," says Tom. "Ay, will I, with pleasure," says he. "It's good beer." "Beer," says Tom. "Blood and turf, man, where did you get it?" "Where did I get it, is it? Why, I made it to be sure, and what do you think I made it of? Devil of one of me knows, says Tom. But of malt, I suppose. What else? This there you're out. I made it with hay. Oh, hay, says Tom, bursting out laughing. Sure, you don't take me to be such an humble man as to believe that? Do as you please, says he. But what I tell you is the real truth. Did you never hear tell of the Danes? To be sure I did, says Tom. Won't them, the chaps, we gave such a licking when they thought they would take Derry from us? Says the little man. Is that you all know about the Danes? Why, with them, the Danes was their taught a lot of things that they taught us, like the beer out of the hay, and the secret is with my family ever since. Will you give a body a taste of your beer to try? Says Tom. I tell you what it is, young man. If it's further that you'd be looking after your father's property than to be bothering decent, quiet people with your foolish questions. There now, while you were idling away with your time here, there's the cows have broke into the oats and knocking the corn all about it. Tom was taken so by surprise with this that he was just on the very point of turning round when he recollected himself. So, afraid that he would light my happen again, he made a grab at the leprechaun and caught him up in his hand, but in a hurry he overset the pitcher and spirited the beer so that he couldn't get a taste of it, to tell what sort it was. He then swore that he wouldn't do him if he didn't show him where his money was. Tom looked so wicked and so bloody-minded that the little man was quite frightened. So, says he, come along with me a couple of fields off, and I'll show you a crock of gold. So they went, and Tom held the leprechaun fast in his hand and never took his eyes from off him, though they had to cross hedges and ditches and a crooked battered bog, for the leprechaun seemed, out of pure mischief, the pick of the hardest and most contrary way. Till at last they came to a great field, all full of boliaun peas, yellow ragweed, and the leprechaun pointed to a big boliaun, as says he, dig under that boliaun and you'll get a crock of chuck full of golden guineas. Tom, in his hurry, had never minded the bringing of a spade with him, so he thought to run home and fetch one, and that he might know the pace again, he took off one of his red gathers and tied it round the boliaun. I suppose, says the leprechaun, very civilly, you've no further occasion of me. No, says Tom, you may go away now, if you like, and God speed you, and may God luck attend you wherever you go. Well, goodbye to you, Tom Fitzpatrick, said the leprechaun, and much good may be do the same with you, you will get it. So Tom ran for the bare life, till he came home and got a spade, and threw away with him as hard as he could, peeled back the field of boliauns. But when he got there, looking behind, not a boliaun in the field, but had a red gather, the very identical mother of his own, tied about it, and as to started digging up the whole field. That was all nonsense. But there was more nor 20 good Irish acres in it. So Tom came home again with his paint in his shoulder, a little cooler nor he went, and many as the hearty curse he gave the leprechaun every time he thought of the knave turned, he starved him. So that was the story of Tommy Fitzgerald. Köszönöm a figyelmet, remélem élveztétek a mesét és valamit elkaptatok belőle. Ha nem értettétek, akkor hallgassátok meg a magyar variációt. Sziasztok, goodbye!